Welcome to Making It Happen, the podcast for working parents who are raising kids, growing careers, and trying to stay grounded in the process. I'm your host, Pauline Roth. Each week, we'll talk about real-life balance, the kind that doesn't look perfect, but works for you. This isn't about having it all. It's about making it happen. You let me know when you want to start, Jim. Okay. Are you ready, Cathie?
Yeah, do it.
All right. Hold on, let me take a drink of water.
We're not parched. So much to say.
We have so much to say. Okay, so thank you for being on my podcast. I have Cathie here with me today.
Honored.
She is a mom. She's a wife. She is a working mom, and you're starting your own business, or you have started your own business. So we're going to talk about all those things. So tell me a little bit about your background, where you come from, what you do for a living, everything.
How far back are we going?
As far back as you want to go.
From birth, okay?
Yes.
So I was born in Dominican Republic. My parents came here when I was very young. So I basically say I'm born here because I don't have any memories of being a citizen of Dominican Republic, let's say.
Okay.
But so my parents came here. We ended up in Massachusetts. Lived there for the majority of my life until I met my husband, who was in the Air Force at the time. And then we got married, moved to Florida, and then California, then back to Massachusetts, and now back to Florida. That's the short version.
So you said you were really young when you moved from the Dominican to the United States. So how old were you?
I want to say 1.
Okay. So
we went back, and then my sister was born, and she's about 18 months apart from me, and then we came back to the States, and then stayed, because my brother is actually a citizen, like born here.
Okay.
Yeah. So like I said, I don't have any, besides visits, I don't have any recollection of ever, like, I can't say that I've ever lived in the Dominican. I was just basically born there and came here.
Do you go back and visit?
No. Not as often as I'd like to, but I think the last time I was there was for my sister's wedding when I saw family. And that was
Okay.
10 plus. Yeah.
So why did your parents decide to move to Massachusetts?
Originally, I don't know the whole story, but my grandparents were here already, and they lived in New York. And per a suggestion of one of my mom's friends, and basically why everybody comes to live here, for better opportunities, better jobs, things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
I think my dad was in the U.S. for a bit, working in Texas. My grandparents lived in the Bronx. I know I stayed with them for a while until my parents got established. So I think it was just for better opportunities, as far as, like, they were young. I mean, they had me when they were 21, so they were like a young couple trying to get established and
trying to figure out what to do.
Yeah.
How to raise a child.
How to raise children.
Children.
Too. So I think they just needed a different support system and better opportunities for work.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Are you and your siblings close?
Very close. I mean, I think as close as
siblings can be
without being gross, I guess. I don't know. I'm close with both of them. Okay. Love them dearly. My favorite. Yeah.
That's good. Yeah. That's what I tell my kids, that your sister is going to be your best friend for life.
Yeah, even if they don't start out that way. I mean, I know my parents, my mom especially, because she grew up an only child, even though she did have, like, step siblings, they were never close.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't, but the families didn't make that a priority. And I feel like when you have a blended family, it should be kind of like a priority. I don't really know what the circumstances are, why they weren't, but she didn't have that. So she always made it a point for us to get along and be each other's backup, and always said that, that classic saying, if something happens to me, you're going to be,
Right.
this is who you're going to be left with and stuff. But and I think that's a big reason why we are close, because she made that a point. We weren't allowed. I mean, siblings fight and they have their quarrels, but if she caught wind of it, it was like, no, you're not doing that. Like, you're supposed to love each other, care about each other, put each other for, like family. So,
Yeah.
I think that's why we're close.
That's how my mom is.
Yeah.
She always tells me, my brother, and my sister, you guys are only going to have each other.
Yeah.
And that's true.
Yeah.
I feel like as a parent, you have to say that to your kids because it's true. You don't always get along.
No. And that's how they learn how to form relationships and work through things. And, and if you just allow hostility to continue and linger, then that's going to be the end result. Like, I always find it funny when people are like, oh, I haven't talked to my sibling in 10 years or I don't get along. I'm like, I can't even fathom what that would be like, So it's like, how did you get there?
Yeah.
Because, you're all different people. You're not going to get along, but to the point where you don't, like, reach out for each other or, I don't know. To me, that's weird.
Yeah, to me, it's weird, too.
Yeah.
But my age compared to my siblings, there's just like, we're so far apart in age. Like, me and my brother were 6 years apart. He's younger. And then me and my sister are 21 years apart.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It is crazy. We're not that far. Like, my sister's, like I said, almost 18 months. And then my brother's 4 years younger than me. So, when he was little, we beat the crap out of him and, like,
right, because
he's
a boy.
Because he's a boy. And, it was just, like, fun. He was, like, the baby of the family and stuff. But as we grew older, and we're all close in different ways, we all have things in common. We have things that are not in common, and we get along for certain reasons. And I think that's, like, the best part about it. We can all hang out together and do stuff, but I go to my sister for certain things. She comes to me for certain things. And then my brother and I love to do certain things together. So it's like, but when all three of us get together, it's just pure fun all the way around. So it's nice.
That's good. So you said you lived in California and then Massachusetts, and then Florida, and you're back in Florida.
Yep.
So what has been your favorite state?
I mean, Massachusetts is where I've lived the majority of my life, but if we're speaking when I started my family with my husband, I'm probably going to say Florida.
Okay.
California we lived in Northern California, which is, people say the state should be cut in half to Northern and Southern, and they're right. It's such a different vibe from one part of California to the other.
What's the difference?
I think Southern, because you're exposed to, like, more beaches and, like, it's just more relaxed. It's kind of like a Florida vibe in a sense of, you've got the warm weather, you have, beautiful scenery and things like that. I think people are just a little bit more relaxed. Up north, you do have beautiful scenery, but we're talking like wine country and, San Francisco. It's a different, moodier vibe, I guess. I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. It's just different,
Okay.
My experience in California when I lived there was a little bit different too, because when we bought a house, he was still in the Air Force, but the base for what we could afford to buy, the house was like an hour away from base. So I was pretty isolated. I didn't have a lot of friends in California. I was like taking care of Naya by myself all the time, and he worked 12-hour shifts. So I wouldn't say I had the best experience in California, only because, and I did meet great people later on down the line. But, for like the first year or two, it was pretty lonely for me. But in terms of scenery and vibe, still not the same as well. So, yeah, I would say here where we are now. We always loved Florida, which is why we came back. But
well, we're so glad you're here.
Right? But yeah, I mean, I gave birth to my daughter here, and we started our married life in Florida. So I think that's what it is. It's like the nostalgia of like what Florida has brought to my life, or how it's expanded since coming here. So
where it started.
Yeah. Like the origin story of the Stich family, I guess.
So talk to me about being a stepmom, and how was that for you? Were you prepared to be a stepmom, or?
I don't think you can prepare, because because you hear horror stories, right?
Right.
So a lot of times it's like you don't really know what kind of relationship you're gonna, or what real relationship the father and the mother have, and now you're in it. Where's your place in it, and how, like, what's your place in it in terms of like how much can I step in or step out, or how much, like, how much love should I give? What should this child call me?
Right.
So there's a lot going on. It's like, it's almost like going on a first date. So you're like meeting this kid who's never seen you, and you're trying to like build this relationship, and you just hope it goes well because they're such a huge part of your partner's life. So if you're not getting along, that's going to cause some type of friction. I mean, thankfully that wasn't the case, but I mean, I definitely went in there with a lot of fears, a lot of anxiety about it. Like I said, here's a child who's going to be looking at me as what? I have no idea. As another mom, as a friend, an enemy, like.
And how old was she when you first came around?
I want to say 5 going on 6.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was it easy from your perspective?
In terms of like being in a relationship with her, I thought it was easy.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, finding my place in what I should be contributing to in her life was a little bit difficult. She has a mom and she has a dad, and they're both obviously very involved in her life, and I didn't want to feel like I was interjecting where I wasn't supposed to be. So for a little while it was weird, but then once you get adjusted and she was very welcoming, and we hit it off pretty well, and it just grew from there. So, but I think any step parent goes into it thinking like it can really go only one of two ways. Either this kid loves me or hates me, and then what do you do with either side of that?
Right. Yeah. I can imagine it's hard for you and just for everyone involved, because you don't know what to do.
Yeah.
She doesn't know how to react to you.
Right.
Like was she, I don't want to say jealous, but did she feel a certain way because you were with her father now? And
I don't think so, because by the time she met me, her parents had been divorced for a very, very long time. So she already had a step parent. Her mom had already remarried. She had a brother, so I think she was already kind of accustomed to like what that step parent relationship was already looking like. So I think in that sense, it probably kind of softened the blow. I think it would have been different if she was with a single mom, and now another woman's coming.
You're like, you.
Like, so I think in that sense it was a better transition. But I would say probably for like the first 2 years, at least for me, it was not difficult in terms of like loving her and accepting her. It was more of like, do I discipline her?
Right. Like, what's my place?
Like, what's my place? And Mark always made me feel very comfortable. He's like, if you're not there yet, come to me. I'm happy. He's obviously the dad, so he's a disciplinarian, and there would be times where I'd message her mom and be like, hey, this is what's going on, blah, blah, blah. And then after a while, I was like, when I felt secure in where I was at, then I was like, I don't really need to do this anymore.
Right.
It's good.
Yeah.
Because regardless, like, she's a different person and so am I. And, like, she's in our home. So it has to kind of go, we're now a family. So we kind of have to figure out our own family dynamic with respect to, we're not going to go off the rails and be like, ignore how she's being raised on the other side of it. But the fact of the matter is, 2 different families are going to have 2 different perspectives and ways that they do things. So, I think when we needed to come together to address certain things, and that's what would happen. But in general, each household kind of did their thing.
Now, was she excited when you got pregnant with Naya?
Yeah, she was. Especially finding out it's a girl. She had a brother, so it was nice for her to like, they were very close, or are very close, or were very close. I don't know. We're in a weird vibe at the moment, but no, she was very excited. Very excited.
That's good.
Yeah.
So how long have you and Mark been married?
Oh, we've been together, 15, married for 13.
So how has that been?
Awesome. I do have to say, when people are like, oh, I mean, I think like if I sat and focused on the times where it felt bumpy, then, but that's not, and it's not being like in denial or being like, oh, I only want to see the good. It's just kind of like there's been way more better moments than there have been not good moments, and I think it's to be expected. I never got into marriage being like, it's gonna be smooth sailing, and, but I can't imagine doing life without him. And I think that's a big deal. Like, he's my friend. He's everything. You know what I mean? So it's like, as long as you put those things in priority and perspective, then I don't know, we're each other's biggest cheerleaders. There's no other person that I'm going to run to first to be like, this is what's going on, or this is how I'm feeling, and celebrate and cry, and all those things fall in this person's lap, and vice versa. So, I mean,
and that's important to have a partner like that.
Yeah.
Because with Jim and I don't feel like we've been together for 14 years.
It feels like it's gone like that.
I know. And it's
really
like
fast. And I don't know if that's like, I don't know. It's just, I feel like when you
find your person
and you're happy, and I don't know, it just goes.
Right.
Which sometimes I catch myself when I get upset that it's going by so fast. Like when your kids are babies and you don't know how you're going to get out of that newborn phase, and then next thing you know, they're walking, and next thing you know, they're talking, and you're like, when did all this happen? Like, somebody press pause.
Yeah. I feel the same way. Yeah. Mila's going to be double digits, as she likes to say, and I'm like, why?
Yeah.
When? How?
Yeah. It's going to be like 12, and I'm like, 12.
Are you ready for that?
No, because it's further away from being a little kid.
Right.
I remember looking at her when she crossed over from being like a toddler into a little kid. Like when they first start kindergarten, you're still seeing a little hint of toddler in them. Right. And then somehow halfway through the year, you're like, oh no, this is like a child. This is a person. Kid. Yeah. No more diapers, no more training things, no more, they're like full-blown kids now.
Yeah.
And then she turned double digits, and it was like,
you're like, no, go back.
Yeah. Just for a minute. Just goes by way.
Yeah. That's the one thing I didn't understand when I first had Mila, is like, everyone says, oh, savor all the moments because it's going to go by so fast, but you don't actually realize how fast it's going to go until you look back.
Yeah.
And then you're like, wait, when did that happen?
Yeah. And then you're like, how do you savor? Because when you're in the moment, you think you are, and then you look back and you're like, did I savor enough?
Right.
I haven't.
Yeah.
And I don't know how our parents even did that, or even before, without phones and videos and things that capture all those memories, so you can actually like take a sneak peek back and be like, oh, I remember her laugh, and if I want to remember that laugh, I can go back to a video and look at it and be like, and I'm back in that moment. But imagine, our parents took pictures, and then when videos came out and the huge camcorder and stuff, like, we can have that now.
Do we have anything to even play the videos?
I don't think my parents do. And if they did, I don't know if I want to look at
it.
Because you get embarrassed looking at yourself. But yeah, I'm like,
exactly.
It's just too fast. Everything is fast.
So you're working full time. Naya is being homeschooled. How are you balancing or juggling all of it at the same time?
It's tough. Some days rougher than others, but I think, her school is virtual, so she's on live class for most of the day.
Okay.
So the majority, she's in school from like 9 till 11:30. And then now she's in 6th grade, so she has some additional classes. So she has a little break where she'll have her lunch and kind of relax. And then she's off to 2 other classes later in the afternoon. She's usually done by 3.
Okay.
So in that sense, for 6th grade, it's gotten a little bit, because she's more occupied in a live class. And then Mark was home a lot last year while he was doing training and not working, and all these other things that were going on. So that's been helpful, and he's home now because he goes to school. So, but once he's going back to school, it might be a little bit difficult in the sense of like trying to get homework and help her out.
So what made you guys as parents decide to homeschool her?
The biggest thing was she was very unhappy in her the school that she was in. And, and I think I've told you, like, she was a kid that loved school, like going to school. And she came from a military school, so I think a lot of it had to do with that. It's a smaller school. Usually, like, the class sizes are a little bit smaller. You can get a little bit more attention to the kids and stuff. The community recognizes itself, so she knew military. I don't know what the difference is, but it's a different culture, And then coming here, school starts in August, so she was already a couple of months behind. We moved here in October,
and there's like 30 kids
and
in a
like
class.
30 kids, and it was a very different environment for her. And even as she was trying to get adjusted to that, she was just like not acclimating in terms of like being able to learn how she was learning before. And every Sunday it would be tears and full-blown breakdowns of not wanting to go to school, and that was rough because she was never like that. Like I said, I make the connection because I was like, she was the kid that when like summer break, she was upset that school was over. Like she wanted to keep going to school. So for us, it was very difficult to see her be that upset. And then as parents, you're like, well, is this a life lesson? So we made her write it out. We're like, there's going to be times and things that you're doing that you're not going to like, and it's not the best environment, but we have to like power through and finish things and da da da. So once she finished the school year, we're like, we're not doing this again.
Was that a hard decision for you guys to make as a family?
No.
Was she all for it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We didn't have a lot of time to really like look for another school, and I guess seeing her like that, I just didn't want to take that chance again. Because I felt like she was at the age where if she hates school, then we've lost her in terms of like academics. I just felt the pull, and you get pulled in many different directions because you're like, am I doing the right thing in terms of like, okay, I think I taught her this lesson of like powering through, but is it beneficial to her to be miserable powering through things? That's not really, you know what I mean? Like,
I go through that too, because sometimes if the girls don't want to do something, especially with Emma because she's younger, and I'm like, okay, but we can't just let her not do it because she has to learn.
Right.
But are we doing the right thing?
Right. And I was like, well, and then people, what about the social aspect? And what about her getting exposed to things and things like that? And then I was like, I took myself out of my own head because Mark's like, and he's very good like that. That's where the balance of a good marriage comes in, because he knows when I'm getting too into my head about something, or reassures me about what I'm feeling. He's like, you have good instincts. So if you're feeling that, you're very connected to her. So So I was like, yeah. And I was like, you know what? Why am I letting other people's influence shift how I'm going to parent my child? Because at the end of the day, they're not going to assume that responsibility of something. It's me who has to. So I have to live with those decisions. And for me, I was like, I would rather her get into her studies as much as she can and focus and be in an environment where she feels smart. And she wasn't feeling smart. She was feeling, and we don't use the word stupid in our house. I hate that word. Like that's, you can call things stupid, but not
someone.
People,
yeah.
Right. And like I said, she had one time where Mark picked her up and she just started crying and was like, I'm just stupid. I don't get it. And I was like, that crushed me more than anything, because I was like, I don't want her to feel like she's not smart, because we're all smart in different aspects. Maybe street smart, academic, whatever the case may be. I just didn't want her to lose that. And I felt if I kept pushing her into a school where she didn't feel like she was learning or feeling like she was advancing, then she would just shut down and give up altogether. So I was like, yeah, I'd rather not. I'd rather keep her home. Let's see how that works out. Help her along the way if she needs the help. And then if she wants to go back to a traditional school at some point, she has the option. She just hasn't wanted to. But we put her in
Right.
If your
Yeah,
kid
they're
has a
exposed
TV,
to everything.
we have phones, we go out and about. She's exposed to probably more than I want her to see in general. And a lot of people are like, well, you're sheltering her. Not really. I don't. What would you like me to expose her to? Gun violence, like kids
Right.
beating each other up. Like, I don't know. You know what I mean? I'm like,
Yeah.
she's got the rest of her life to be exposed to
Everything.
all the horrors of human nature.
Yeah.
You know, I need her to know wherever she may be in life, her base is always going to be with us.
Mm-hmm.
So, no, in terms of that, for her, it's been the best decision. For us, it comes with sacrifice, obviously. Like you said, I work full time. Mark's involved in something most of the time as well with school, and now he's going back to school full time. So that in itself, but she's getting older, so now it's the lesson of this is what you want. You have to assume more responsibility. Like you have to make sure you get up on time and be in class and check your homework, and because we can't do all these things for you. So in that sense, but it's the sacrifice I'm willing to make for her to be feeling like she's advancing or that she's contributing in some way, great, academically, not feeling defeated.
Well, that's what I tell Jim all the time, because it's a sacrifice on us, because it would be so much easier if we had them in school.
Yeah.
But they're not in school, and at the same time, I'm actually happy that they're not, because they're not exposed to everything that you don't want them to be exposed to. And we have more control over their friends and who they hang out with. That's important.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't raised like that, so I don't know, but I don't know. You don't miss what you don't know.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I don't think, God willing, she's not going to, I don't know. She watches TV. She knows what violence looks like. She knows what mean people look like. She knows what. So, in that sense, I'm okay with it. I don't have any issue with her being home. I no longer get in my head. I don't have parent guilt about that anymore. I feel like that's such a huge thing when you become a parent that nobody really tells you about. Like, if you allow everyone's opinion on how things should go or how, like it's great to get constructive criticism, but at the end of the day, we have to go with our gut. We have to go with our instincts. Not that they're always right, but when it comes to your kids.
Yeah, let's talk about that mom guilt, because you're right. Nobody prepares you for that.
No.
So tell me what you have felt guilty about as a mom.
I think the normal things.
Everything.
If you're not worrying about how you're affecting them, or are you doing this right? Are you doing this wrong? Are you exposing them too much? Not enough? Like, it's never ending. I think that's like parenthood is just one huge guilt trip until they become adults. Like,
that is true.
If you're not worried about them most of the time, you're feeling guilty about something that you worried about or didn't worry about enough, and it's just But I mean, I think as they get older and you start to see kind of, I guess, the fruits of your labor, you start to see them develop more and see how your influences help them develop, and you feel a little less guilty about things.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Even, when I talked to my mom on the phone, one time she told me, she's like, I don't worry about you because I'm the oldest, and just because I have my own family now, but she worries about my brother and my sister just because they're younger and they don't have families yet. So I think that until your kids are married with their own family, then that's maybe when you stop to worry. But I think the mom guilt is always there.
Oh, it starts from the minute somebody tells you you're pregnant.
Yeah.
Yep. Because you get bombarded with, are you eating enough? Are you exercising enough? Are you taking the correct vitamins? And you're like, so right away you're already feeling guilty. Is this, and if you hated being pregnant, do you feel guilty because you're like, oh, I'm carrying life and so many people can't, and you're feeling guilty about that, right?
Right. And
then you give birth and you're a hot mess of hormones, and, for the fortunate ones that your baby latches and you're overproducing and you have a great amount of milk, and then, someone like me who never produced enough, I felt guilty because I'm like, I wanted to breastfeed, and I did, but never to, it was always like I had to supplement and I pumped, and that wasn't enough, and
or you feel guilty if you have a C-section, like I did. I cried when the doctor told me. It's like, I want to give birth the way that women do.
I never felt that. When the doctor's like, you have to have a C-section based on what was going on with your body, I'm like, do it.
Well, I look back and I'm so happy.
Yeah, I had Braxton Hicks one night, and it was so terrible that I'm like, thank you, God, that I'm getting a C-section, because if this is what it's like, dope me up. Like, no.
Give me all the drugs.
No. And I consider myself a somewhat strong person, but the amount of pain that shot in my body at once, I was like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
But then C-section itself is a whole different, horrible, painful beast in itself. So
right.
I don't know which one's better.
They're both painful.
They're both painful. So, but yeah, I feel like guilt starts the minute you find out you're pregnant. Mm-hmm. I don't think it ends till, I don't know. I'll let you know. I don't feel that.
Never.
That's
so true. So we've talked a lot about being a mom and homeschooling Naya. Talk to me about your marriage. Like, what are some things that you and Mark do to keep that spark alive?
That is a work in progress. Especially now that Naya is getting older.
Mm-hmm.
I think you have to keep redefining how you do that, right? Because I think for a period of time we're in autopilot. Like, we're good, but we could be better in terms of like making time for each other, and I think a lot of maybe couples fall into this where if you're home together, you find that to be quality time, where it's really not,
right.
Because you're managing your household, right? You're who's cooking, who's cleaning, who's helping, who showered, who's going to bed, like who's doing whatever. And then by the time you actually get to sit and settle, you're watching TV, but that's not really, it's a fun activity to do together, but
but it's not quality time.
It's not quality time. And I think you get into autopilot with that. And then, but we just found like, okay, Naya's older. There was the guilt of that,
Mm-hmm.
I never grew up with like sleepovers and, friends came over our house, but we never went really to people's houses. And like, I didn't go to my friend. I'm going to my friend's house after school. That wasn't a thing. Like, I was always home, and friends could come over our house and we can hang and they can come and sleep over, but I never did that. So as Naya was getting older, I just wasn't very comfortable with all of that, but now, she's at the age where if she's uncomfortable, she has an iPad, she can call, like, and do all these things. So I'm like, we kind of have to restructure and not rebuild, but kind of like, she's getting older. And that realization that at some point she's not going to be with us all the time.
Yeah.
We have to be comfortable being around each other, which we are. But we, like at some point we are going to be, it's just going to be us. And what are we going to do with ourselves? It can't just be watching TV all the time. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. So I think we just try to have like more conversations and be outside and have our date nights, whether we stay at home or go out.
It's probably one of my kids.
Yeah, but I think, I'm not sure what people mean by the spark. Like, he's not somebody that I don't ever want to be around, I guess, and I still look at him in a very romantic way, I guess. I don't look at him as like, oh, he's my husband, but as far as that, I still find him sexy, I still want him around, you know what I mean? So, like, I think it's just the effort that you put into it, but I feel like you have to have reasonable expectations. I think a lot of people have this like fantasy about what marriage is and like keep the spark alive and do this and do that, and like you're not ravaging each other every other day, then something's wrong. And, like, no, I think you also have to like define what are the priorities, what are your priorities for each other, for your life, for your future, and then work and base yourself off of that. But also surround yourself with people whose marriages you admire, or like we've talked about that, like being around different couples and like the things that you can, like, you're not going to turn your whole life and be like, oh, I'm going to become Jim and Pauline, but you're like, I kind of like that, like maybe we could try that, or that sounds like a united in what you built together and what's
Right.
the end game with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's important.
Yeah. I feel like that's the most important. You're always on the same page, on the same side.
Yes.
You know.
That's exactly why I know you make fun of me all the time. You're like, what do you and Jim have to talk about?
Like, there's so much talking. I'm like,
there is so much to talk about.
And then I look at Mark and I was like, I don't have anything to say to you right now. And I was like, are we doing something wrong? And he's like, will you stop getting in your head? I'm like, but I really don't. He's like, we talk enough. Do we though? You know? But that's just my nature. I tend to absorb what I see or feel around me and see what can come out on my side and be productive and helpful. But yeah, I think people's expectations of what marriage is I don't know. You can't live in a fantasy. I think you have your moments and your marriage starts, and I feel like it's supposed to go certain. I think you are supposed to have rough times, and I feel like there's going to be times where you do feel disconnected, and there's going to be times where you feel the most connected.
But I feel like specifically for those times, it's so important to be on the same page because Jim and I, and I'm sure you and Mark as well, are not going to be like, okay, well, the first thing is divorce.
Yeah.
Like, that's just not an option.
We're not even, it's an unspoken, like, truth, law, whatever you want to call it, in our rule in our marriage that we do not even say the word. It's not even hinted. You know, and even if it is hinted, because, you know, people have gotten into heated arguments where, like, if we say it, that's for me, that's like dropping such a bomb that it's like, no. So if that word is said, there's some serious bad something coming, you know what I mean? Or something that, not that it doesn't need to be addressed, we just don't say it. Because I feel like that's giving you an out. So for us, it's like, there's no out. And we don't mean that in like we're just stuck together way. It's more of like, we're going to work at this. We both want that.
Right.
So we won't even entertain putting that word in the atmosphere. You know what I mean? Because it's just like,
you don't want to put that energy out there.
No energy. The energy is we work it out.
Right.
That's it.
It's just so funny because when I was in college, some of my friends in college, they were like, oh, I like this guy, maybe I'll marry him, but it's okay because I can always get divorced if it doesn't work out.
Yeah.
It's like, I feel like the younger generation has that thought because I hear them talk about divorce so casually.
Yeah.
And for us, it's not.
I think you have to, for me, it's like, and I try to do this every day, you're speaking life.
Yes.
Right? So whatever you speak into the world is what's going to come back. And nobody goes into, you shouldn't go into a marriage thinking you're going to get divorced. Like, then what's the point? Just keep dating. Like,
right.
And there's definitely situations where divorce is the option, right? What led to that, I don't know. You know, maybe there were red flags that people choose to ignore because we do that, right? I don't know. But for me, for where I'm at and who I'm with, that's not an option. And it's not something that we take very lightly in our relationship. Like I said, it's like an unspoken truth. So even if we get upset and we're not talking to each other for a bit, we know that at some point there needs to be resolution.
Right.
Right. And for us, and for me, the most important thing is to always keep that respect in your marriage in terms of, like, we can be upset with each other and address things, but never disrespect each other. I think when you start getting very comfortable with disrespecting each other, then you're already a foot out the door.
Yeah.
Because that chips away at somebody's self-esteem. And you're not in it to hurt the other person, right? So being disrespectful is hurtful. And after a while, that hurt just keeps building and building and building. So it's always like, if we're going to be nasty or mean, we need to take that, which we're not, but I'm saying, like, in terms of, like, I know people that are like that, and they go straight for the jugular, and they, you know, say things that are so, to me, if somebody said that to me, like, that's relationship ending to me. Because once you've said it, you've said it. You can apologize for it all you want to, but the words have already stuck in that person's mind.
Right.
So I just feel like if you start disrespecting each other, not looking at each other like friends, like, you know,
especially in front of other people. Like I don't
Gosh,
like
yeah.
that.
Why are you here?
Right. I don't like that.
No. And that also is kind of a sign of not great things.
Yeah.
You're willing to do that. Put somebody down that you're supposed to care about. That's the thing that gets me. It's like you're supposed to care about this person.
Mm-hmm.
Like you decided to do a journey in life with this person, and now you're treating them like worse than anybody you've ever come across in your life. Like,
right.
And you can only own your side of it. So for me, it's like if there's no respect there, the whole lovey-dovey stuff that comes in and out of life, right?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you need your friend, you need your confidant, you need your love will carry you so much, but you need that component of friendship, you need that component of like trust and of respect, to carry you through that, because it's real easy when everything's awesome. When you're dating and you have no responsibilities but like having fun, of course, but you don't know what life is going to bring your way. People passing away, losing kids, having kids, losing a job, getting a job, moving. So many of those things affect how your relationship's going to go. And if you can't build strength and look at each other and be like, forget the passionate stuff. Be like, I want this person to be happy with me, but as an individual, what can I contribute for that, and what can that person bring to my life? When you start looking at that other person and could give two shits about what's happening to them, not good. Right?
You're so wise.
Wish.
Okay, let's start talking about your business. So I don't think you mentioned it, but you are a baker.
I am self-taught.
Tell us a little bit about that. How did you start baking?
Getting into it?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. I feel like I really got into it when I got married.
Okay.
And then more so when I had a baby, and then I was kind of like home for a bit, because I had the time to kind of like putz around and be like, hey, So I entertained a hobby, and food is always for like lots of people a sign of love. So I guess I just wanted to expand on that. It's like my mom loves, likes to cook, and that's how she expresses love, and I kind of adopted a little bit of that. And so when I got married, it was like I loved making food for my husband and him being like, oh, this is great. And then the baking kind of evolved on its own. I don't want to say it came naturally, but it wasn't. I guess when something is like, when you're good at something, it kind of evolves on its own. So I naturally started being like somewhat decent at it. And I was like, wow, I'm pretty good at this. So I just kept doing it. And then, like most bakers, they get fixated on the latest trend of what to bake, and then they get stuck, they just keep doing it. So that's what I did. And I just love it.
Well, all of your stuff is amazing.
It's my stress relief too. It's like one place I can just settle into, and I don't know, there's something about baking. I love to cook too, but baking specifically is just, there's something about it that's very calming to me. It's very like I can just kind of like fall into myself and just be in that moment, and then just the end result, especially if it's something that you've been working on for a long time, like the technique, and if you've mastered that technique and comes out exactly how you saw in a book or however, and you're just like so proud of yourself. But it's not a moment that needs to be like out in the world. It's just for you,
Yeah.
And I've always loved that about baking. So
see, that is cooking for me when I'm able to cook alone.
Yeah.
But when I have everybody in the house and they're distracting, noisy, it doesn't work. And baking, obviously, my baking stories. I cannot bake for the life of me.
Yeah.
So the world needs bakers. The world needs more Cathies.
Right. I don't know. I just love it. I said it just makes me happy. And then, Naya likes it, and I hope as she, gets older, it's like one of those things you like to just hand down something from one generation to another. My mom wasn't a baker. She's not a big dessert person, but she always put so much love in her food, and watching her do that, I think that's where I got it from. And then as I got older. I remember when I moved to the city by myself. Well, not by myself. I had roommates, but one particular roommate who's a very good friend of mine. We would go out to restaurants, and then I started eating different foods that I hadn't eaten before. And then, she always had cooking magazines, and I'd start flipping through that, and I'm like, oh, I want to try that. So then I'd be trying that, and then that turned into baking, and it just kind of came full circle. But it's more of a hobby that I hope to turn into a thriving business. But either way, I feel like I'm going to be okay because it didn't start with the intention of making it a business, I guess.
So what is your business dream?
Business dream. Honestly, if I could do that full time, that would be fantastic. What that looks like, whether it's in my home or in a coffee shop / big small, like a small cafe kind of situation, I'm not sure. I think the dream was just to keep doing.
Yeah.
What that looked like, I'm not sure. But I think you and I have talked about this. I'm like, I didn't want that passion to go away and then get wrapped up in money. Because I think a lot of people lose their drive and their love for something when they wrap money into it. It's nice to have it, but that's not why I started doing it.
Right.
I think I've always feared if I dug my feet into it and was so worried about making money, then I would lose the love of actually making stuff.
Yeah.
So it's that battle, like I told you, I hate money. So if I didn't have to think about money, that wasn't a thing. I would love to go back to olden days where you just exchange things. Like, hey, I'll give you a loaf of bread and you come fix my car. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If we could live that life, that would be my ideal life, but that's not reality.
Yeah.
I'm not a very business-minded person. I'm more of a, if I could hand all that off to someone else and just stick to the baking. But I'm sure a lot of people feel like that with the jobs that they do. But I'm getting there. Your help with it.
Yes. We are going to get you there. Yeah. You don't have to worry about anything other than baking.
Oh, it's the dream.
That is the dream. All right. So I don't know what else to ask you. I think we pretty much talked about everything.
For part one, yeah.
For part one.
Yeah.
Well, I'll bring you back for a part two.
Yeah. Our heels part two.
Why don't you tell everyone what your company is called and where to find you?
My baking company is called Whisk'd Away. And I am on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram right now.
She will be on Facebook soon.
Facebook soon. Right now I'm kind of just selling my stuff on my neighborhood Facebook page and then, kind of word of mouth. Hoping to expand that. I will be. That's the thing. I got to stop saying hoping and just get to I've been hoping for a long time. So I think I have to shift my focus into the doing part of it.
Yes.
Right?
It already happened.
Yeah, we get very comfortable. At least I do in the hoping part of it. And because I'm in my head a lot. And then, it's very competitive. COVID put a lot of home bakers out there, which is fantastic. But it's also feeling confident enough to know that you have a lane that you can be in. And it's taken me a while to be there. Because then you see other people post and you're like, that looks really good.
What I would say, what I would say to you is that, first of all, your desserts, your bread, your sourdough bread is amazing because you just don't make sourdough bread. Mm-hmm. You have all kinds of other stuff. Which one do I love? I love the.
Is it like the chocolate and the caramel one?
Yeah, it's so delicious. Mm-hmm. I have to stop ordering that from you.
It's the creativity part I love about not just the sourdough, but any kind of thing. Because, people can be very artistic in many different ways. You like to paint and stuff. I would love to paint, but I'm not a painter. I couldn't, that's wheelhouse is, but throw some eggs and flour at me, I'll figure out something, you know.
All right, don't get mad at me when I throw eggs and flour
Right directly at me. Yeah.
So before we wrap up, Cathie, I want to ask you this question. What's the greatest lesson failure has taught you that you still carry with you today?
Wait. Okay, repeat that. I need to let that soak in.
What's the greatest lesson failure has taught you that you still carry with you today?
That you always have the opportunity to come out better, even if it doesn't feel like that in that particular moment, which most of the time it doesn't. We always feel like we're not, wow, this is bad. It's never going to get any better.
Mm-hmm.
But what I've learned is time doesn't care, you know?
Yeah.
Time doesn't care whether you're sad, happy, failed, succeeded. It's going to keep going. So you have to decide, are you going to stop in time or pretend like you're going to stop in time? Because it's going to keep going with or without you. Or are you going to, like, figure it out and move on? And so I think the biggest lesson in failure is, like, maybe what I thought was supposed to be for me wasn't for me. And that's God just leading the correct way. So I think that's what it is. It's just not a failure if you tried. And if you base your life and put your trust in God, then I always know it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Even if I don't feel it in that moment. Even if it takes a while to feel that, you know. I would probably say I don't think I've had many, and it's not to sound like whatever, failures per se. Because I feel like I've had a great life in terms of how other people's lives have gone and things like that, even through the hard times, you know. But, like, you know, being about being a woman and being a mom and doing whatever, like, I had envisioned myself having lots of kids. I thought I was going to be a mom of 3, and that's not how life worked out, right? And as a woman, you kind of feel like a failure. I know I did, because I'm like, this is what we're supposed to do, is be able to have kids. And you feel like a failure as a woman. You feel like a failure as a wife, because you built this life together, and now you can't give that to your husband, and you know. But it taught me that that's not the plan that God had for me. You know, I'm very blessed that I have the daughters that I have. You know, one being a bonus and one that I gave birth to naturally. But just because I didn't have multiple children doesn't mean that I can't pour that love into other people's children or to other people. So in that sense, you know, there were times where I felt like a failure, but that was the biggest lesson I got out of it. It just was not meant for me. And you have to be okay with that. Right?
That's great. Thank you so much.
Yay!
That's a wrap.
Thanks for tuning in to Making It Happen. If today's episode hit home, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, or share it with someone who needs to hear it. Want more tools and support? Visit paulineroth.com for free resources to keep making it happen. See you next time.